The creature moved through the dark halls of the space station like death itself. Its 6 legs made no sound on the metal floor, but everyone knew it was there. The thing they called the Apex was 12 feet tall and covered in black armor that looked like it grew from its own body. Its claws could cut through steel like paper. Its many eyes never stopped watching. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the emergency message on his screen. The words made his blood run cold. Research Station Omega-7 had sent out a distress call 3 hours ago. Then nothing. Complete silence. "Sir, we're getting close to the station," said Lieutenant Ben Carter from his seat at the controls. "No signs of life from the outside?" Jake nodded but said nothing. He had read the reports about the Apex many times. The Krethak Empire had made this creature in their labs. They had built it to be the perfect weapon. It had destroyed entire fleets by itself. It had never lost a fight. It had never shown fear. "What do we know about the prisoners?" Jake asked. Sergeant Amy Rodriguez pulled up the files on her tablet. 17 humans were being held for prisoner exchange. Scientists, mostly. Dr. Helen Bennett was the lead researcher. She brought her daughter with her. Jake's jaw tightened. Her daughter? Lucy Bennett. 6 years old. She was in the station's family quarters when everything went wrong. The thought of a child trapped with that monster made Jake's stomach turn. He had seen what the Apex could do. The reports from the battlefields were nightmares. Bodies torn apart, ships crushed like toys. And now it was loose on a station with innocent people. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from the station," Ben said. A crackling voice came through the speakers. It was weak and full of static. This is Commander Yothak of the Krethak Defense Force. The containment has failed. The Apex has. It has killed everyone in Section 7. We have lost control." Jake grabbed the communication device. "Commander, this is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Corps. What is your status?" "Captain Morrison, you must not come closer. The creature has learned the station's layout. It knows every path, every hiding place. It killed my best soldiers in minutes. We tried to use the emergency locks, but it broke through them like they were nothing. The transmission cut out for a moment, then came back weaker. It's not just killing, Captain. It's hunting. It knows we're here. It's playing with us." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The Apex was not just a weapon, it was smart. It could think and plan. That made it even more dangerous. "Where are the human prisoners?" Jake asked. "Section 12, the old cafeteria." "But Captain, the creature has turned that whole area into a trap. Any rescue attempt would be suicide." The transmission ended with a scream that made everyone on the bridge go silent. Jake looked at his team. They were good people, brave people. But they were not ready for something like the Apex. None of them were. "Amy, what do our files say about this thing?" Amy read from her tablet. "The Krethak made it from pieces of different creatures. It has the strength of a battle tank, the speed of a fighter ship, and the intelligence of their best generals. Its claws can cut through any known material. Its armor can stop military-grade weapons, and it heals from wounds in minutes." "What about weaknesses?" Jake asked. "None that we know of, sir. The Krethak designed it to be perfect." Jake stared out at the space station. It looked peaceful from the outside, but he knew that inside, the worst nightmare in the galaxy was loose. And somewhere in there, a little girl was hiding, probably scared and alone. "Sir, what are your orders?" Ben asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Every military expert in 3-star systems would tell him to stay away. The smart thing to do was to leave. Let the Krethak deal with their own monster. But Jake could not stop thinking about 6-year-old Lucy Bennett trapped with that thing. "We go in," Jake said finally. "Sir, that's suicide," Amy said. "The creature will kill us all, maybe," Jake said. "But we can't leave those people in there. We can't leave that little girl." The ship moved closer to the station. Jake could see the damage now. Holes in the walls where the Apex had broken through. Emergency lights flashing red, and in the windows, nothing but darkness. "Ben, find us a way in through the maintenance tunnels. Something small that the creature can't use." "Yes, sir." Jake turned to his team. Listen, everyone. This is the most dangerous mission any of us has ever been on. That thing in there has killed trained soldiers without breaking a sweat. It's faster than us, stronger than us, and smarter than us. If anyone wants to stay on the ship, I won't think less of you. Nobody moved. They all stayed at their posts. All right then, Jake said. Let's go save some lives. The ship docked with the station's emergency port. Jake put on his combat suit and checked his weapons. He knew they would not do much good against the Apex, but they made him feel a little better. As they entered the station, Jake could smell death in the air. The lights flickered on and off. Somewhere in the distance, metal creaked and groaned. And underneath it all, Jake thought he could hear something else. Something that sounded like footsteps. Big, heavy footsteps. The Apex was moving. Amy led the way through the narrow maintenance tunnels. The space was so tight they had to crawl on their hands and knees. Behind them, Ben monitored the station's systems on his portable computer. "The creature is in Section 9, Ben whispered. "It's moving toward the cafeteria," Jake's heart pounded. The prisoners were in the cafeteria. The Apex was going to find them. "How long until we reach them?" Jake asked. 10 minutes, maybe 15, Amy said. They crawled faster, but the tunnels seemed to go on forever. Jake tried not to think about what the Apex might be doing to the prisoners. He tried not to think about little Lucy Bennett, scared and alone. Then they heard it. A sound that made them all freeze. It was part roar, part scream, and part something else. Something that sounded almost like laughter. "It found them," Ben whispered. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. They were too late. The Apex had reached the prisoners first, but then Jake heard something else. Something impossible. It was the sound of a child's voice, singing softly in the darkness. Lucy Bennett was still alive. Jake opened his eyes and looked at his team. "Move faster," he said. "That little girl is still alive, and we're going to get her out of there." They crawled through the tunnels as fast as they could. Behind them, the singing continued. Soft and sweet and completely out of place in this house of death, the Apex had found the prisoners. But for some reason, it had not killed them yet. Jake did not know why, but he was grateful. They still had a chance. As they got closer to the cafeteria, Jake could hear more sounds. The creature was moving around, but it was not attacking. It was just waiting. What was it waiting for? Jake pushed the thought out of his mind. It did not matter. All that mattered was getting those people out alive. Getting Lucy Bennett back to safety. The tunnel was getting warmer. They were almost there, and somewhere ahead in the darkness, the Apex was waiting. Jake crawled through the maintenance tunnel as fast as he could. The metal walls pressed against his shoulders, and sweat ran down his face inside his helmet. Behind him, Amy and Ben followed in silence. They could all hear the child's voice getting closer. Lucy Bennett was still singing. Her voice was soft and sweet, like she was singing herself to sleep, but she was not in her bed at home. She was trapped on a space station with the most dangerous creature in the galaxy. "Almost there," Amy whispered into her radio. "The access panel is just ahead." Jake could see light coming through the small holes in the panel. Beyond it was the cafeteria where the prisoners were being held. Where the Apex was waiting, Ben checked his computer screen. "The creature is not moving, sir. It's just standing there." That was strange. The Apex never stood still. It was always hunting, always looking for the next target to destroy. But now it was motionless. Jake reached the access panel and looked through the holes. What he saw made his blood freeze. The cafeteria was a mess. Tables and chairs were thrown everywhere. The walls had deep claw marks cut into them. And in the middle of the room, the Apex stood like a black mountain. The creature was even more terrifying than Jake had imagined. Its 6 legs were thick as tree trunks, ending in claws that could cut a person in half. Its body was covered in dark armor that seemed to move and shift like it was alive. Multiple eyes covered its head, all of them glowing with a red light, but the creature was not moving. It stood perfectly still, like a statue made of nightmares. Jake looked around the room and saw the prisoners. They were huddled together in one corner, trying to stay as far away from the Apex as possible. Most of them were adults, scientists, and researchers. They looked scared but unhurt. Then Jake saw her. Lucy Bennett sat on the floor about 10 feet away from the apex. She was a small girl with brown hair and a dirty white dress. She was not looking at the monster. Instead, she was playing with something in her hands. Jake realized she was singing to a small toy. A stuffed animal that looked like a dog. "My puppy likes to play," Lucy sang softly. "He likes to run and jump all day. When he gets tired, he likes to sleep. Right next to me, he does not make a peep." The apex's many eyes were all focused on the little girl. It had not taken its gaze off her for a single moment, but it was not attacking, it was just watching. "This is impossible," Ben whispered. "Why has it not killed them?" Jake did not have an answer. Everything he knew about the apex said it should have torn through those prisoners in seconds. But instead, it was standing there like it was frozen. "Amy, can you get a clear shot at the creature?" Jake asked. Amy looked through the scope of her rifle. "Yes, sir. But my weapons will not do much damage to that armor." "I know, but if it attacks, we need to try something." Jake studied the room more carefully. The apex had positioned itself between the prisoners and the only exit. It was like it was guarding them, but that made no sense. The creature was supposed to kill prisoners, not protect them. Lucy finished her song and looked up at the apex. "Do you like my puppy?" she asked the creature. "His name is Spot. He is very friendly." The apex said nothing. It could not speak, but its eyes seemed to focus even more on the little girl. "Are you lonely?" Lucy asked. "You look sad. Do you want to be friends?" Jake felt his heart stop. The little girl was talking to the apex like it was a person, like it was just another child on the playground. One of the adult prisoners, a man with gray hair, tried to whisper to Lucy, "Honey, do not talk to that thing, just stay quiet." But Lucy did not listen. She stood up and took a step toward the apex. "No." Jake wanted to scream, but he held his voice back. If he made noise, the creature might attack everyone. Lucy took another step closer to the apex. The creature's body tensed, and Jake could see its claws flex. This was it. The monster was going to kill the little girl, but the apex did not attack. Instead, it did something that shocked everyone in the room. It took a step backward. The most feared creature in the galaxy had backed away from a 6-year-old girl. "You are really big," Lucy said, tilting her head to look up at the apex. "But I think you are nice. Mean things do not stand so still. They move around a lot and make noise." The apex's eyes continued to watch Lucy. The red glow in them seemed to flicker, like a candle in the wind. Jake could not believe what he was seeing. The creature that had destroyed entire fleets was being held back by a child's innocence. It was like Lucy had some kind of magic power that the apex could not fight against. "Ben, are you recording this?" Jake whispered. "Yes, sir." "But I do not think anyone will believe it." Lucy sat down on the floor again, right in front of the apex. She was now close enough that the creature could kill her with one swipe of its claws. "But it did not move. I had a big dog once," Lucy said. "His name was Rex. He was scary to other people, but he was nice to me. He would sit when I told him to. He would stay when I told him to stay." The apex's head tilted slightly, like it was listening. "Do you know how to sit?" Lucy asked. Jake held his breath. Was this little girl about to give orders to the galaxy's most dangerous weapon? "Sit," Lucy said in a clear, firm voice. For a moment, nothing happened. The apex stood like a statue, its many eyes fixed on the child. Jake was sure it was about to attack. Then, slowly, the apex began to lower itself. Its 6 legs bent, and its massive body sank toward the floor. In a few seconds, the creature was sitting like an enormous, deadly dog. The prisoners in the corner gasped. Jake's mouth fell open. Amy nearly dropped her rifle. Lucy clapped her hands together. "Good, you are very smart. I knew you were nice." The apex made a sound. It was not a roar or a growl. It was softer, almost like a purr. Jake had never heard anything like it from the creature before. "Sir," Ben whispered, "the creature's biosigns are changing. Its aggression levels are dropping." Jake could see it, too. The red glow in the apex's eyes was fading. The creature's body was more relaxed. It was like watching a wild animal become tame. Lucy reached into her pocket and pulled out a small piece of food. It looked like part of a nutrition bar. "Are you hungry?" she asked. "I do not have much, but I can share." She held the food out toward the apex. The creature looked at it, then at her face. Very slowly, it reached out with one of its smaller arms and took the food. It did not eat it. It just held it gently in its claws. "See, you are nice," Lucy said. "I knew it all along." Jake realized he was witnessing something that had never happened before. The apex was not just being controlled. It was being changed. Lucy's kindness was doing something to the creature that no weapon could do, but then Jake heard a sound that made his blood run cold. It was the sound of marching feet. Lots of them, and they were getting closer. "Sir, I am picking up movement." "In the main corridor," Ben reported. "It looks like HFY soldiers, a lot of them." The situation was about to get much worse. If the HFY found the apex sitting peacefully with a human child, they would not understand. They would think the humans had done something to their weapon, and they would want revenge. Jake had to make a choice. He could stay hidden and hope the soldiers would leave, or he could reveal himself and try to protect Lucy and the other prisoners. The marching feet were getting closer. In a few minutes, the soldiers would be here. And when they saw what Lucy had done to their perfect weapon, there would be trouble. Jake looked at the little girl sitting calmly in front of the apex. She had done something amazing. She had shown kindness to a creature that had never known kindness before. And now Jake had to find a way to keep her safe. The footsteps stopped just outside the cafeteria door. Jake could hear voices speaking in the HFY language. They were about to enter. Jake made his decision. He quietly opened the access panel and slipped into the cafeteria. Whatever happened next, he would not let them hurt Lucy Bennett. The door to the cafeteria began to open. Jake slipped through the access panel and dropped quietly into the cafeteria. His boots touched the floor without making a sound. The apex was still sitting in front of Lucy, like a giant metal dog waiting for its next command. The little girl looked up and saw Jake. Her eyes went wide, but she did not scream or run. Instead, she smiled and waved at him. "Hello," Lucy whispered. "Are you here to help us?" Jake put his finger to his lips to tell her to be quiet. The HFY soldiers were just outside the door. He could hear them talking in their harsh language. The other prisoners saw Jake and looked hopeful for the first time in hours, but Jake knew the situation was still very dangerous. The apex might be sitting calmly now, but that could change. In an instant, Jake moved closer to Lucy, being careful not to make any sudden movements. The apex watched him with its many eyes, but it did not seem hostile. It was more like a curious animal trying to understand what was happening. "Lucy," Jake whispered, "I am Captain Morrison. I am here to take you home." "That is nice," Lucy said. "But I cannot leave my friend here alone." Jake looked at the apex. The creature's eyes were no longer glowing red. They had changed to a soft blue color that Jake had never seen before. It was beautiful and strange at the same time. "Honey, that thing is not your friend," Jake said gently. "It is very dangerous." Lucy shook her head. "No, he is not dangerous. He's just scared. Look at his eyes. They are sad." Jake looked at the apex's eyes again. Lucy was right. There was something different about them. They did not look like the eyes of a killer anymore. They looked almost lonely. The door to the cafeteria began to open. Jake quickly moved behind an overturned table and pulled Lucy with him. The other prisoners pressed themselves against the wall, trying to become invisible. 3 HFY soldiers entered the room. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. They wore heavy armor and carried energy weapons. Behind them came a 4th figure who was clearly their leader. "War Commander Zethuk," one of the soldiers said. "The apex is here, but it is not moving." Zethuk was bigger than the other soldiers. His armor was decorated with symbols that showed his high rank. He looked at the apex with anger and confusion. "What is wrong with it?" Zethuk demanded. "Why? Is it sitting like a pet?" The soldiers had no answer. They had never seen the apex act this way before. Zethuk walked closer to the apex. "Stand up," he ordered in the Krathak language. "Resume your mission." The apex did not move. It continued to sit where Lucy had told it to sit. "There must be some malfunction," one of the soldiers said. "Perhaps the humans did something to it." Jake felt his heart pound. If the Krathak thought the humans had damaged their weapon, they would be furious. They might kill all the prisoners. In revenge, Zethek pulled out a small device and pointed it at the apex. "I am sending the override command," he said. "This will force it to obey." The device beeped and sent a signal to the apex. For a moment, the creature's eyes flashed red again. Its body tensed, and Jake was sure it was about to attack, but then Lucy did something that surprised everyone. She stood up from behind the table and walked toward the apex. "No," Jake whispered, but it was too late. The Krathak soldiers saw Lucy and immediately pointed their weapons at her. A 6-year-old human child had just appeared in the middle of their operation. "Stop right there!" Zethek shouted but Lucy ignored him. She walked right up to the apex and put her small hand on its armored leg. "It is okay," she said softly. "You do not have to listen to them. You can choose to be good." The apex looked down at Lucy, then at the Krathak soldiers. Its eyes changed from red back to blue. The override command had failed. Zethek stared in shock. "Impossible. No one can resist the override command." "Kill the child," one of the soldiers said. "She has corrupted our weapon." Zethek raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the apex moved. It stood up slowly and placed itself between Lucy and the soldiers. The creature that had been created to serve the Krathak was now protecting a human child from them. "Stand down," Zethek ordered the apex. "That is a direct command from your war commander." The apex did not move. It stood like a black wall between Lucy and the soldiers. Lucy looked up at the apex with pride. "Good boy," she said. "You are protecting me." Jake could not believe what he was seeing. The most feared weapon in the galaxy was taking orders from a little girl instead of its creators. It was choosing to protect instead of destroy. "The child has done something to our weapon," Zethek said. "She must be eliminated." The soldiers raised their weapons again, but the apex let out a low growl that made them all step back. It was a warning. The creature was telling them to stay away from Lucy. Jake realized this was his chance. While the soldiers were focused on the apex, he could signal his team to move in. But first, he had to make sure Lucy stayed safe. "Lucy!" Jake called. "Out." "Come here, honey." Lucy looked at Jake, then at the apex. "Will you come with me?" She asked the creature. The apex made that strange purring sound again. It was almost like it was trying to communicate with her. "I do not think he can come with us," Jake said. "But maybe he can help us get out of here," Lucy nodded. She patted the apex's leg one more time. "Thank you for being my friend," she said. Then she ran to Jake, who picked her up and held her close. The other prisoners began to move toward the exit, but Zethek blocked their path. "No one is leaving," Zethek said. "You humans have corrupted our weapon. You must pay for this crime." "We did not do anything," Jake said. "Your weapon chose to protect an innocent child." "Maybe that says something about what it really wants," Zethek laughed coldly. "The apex does not want anything. It is a weapon. It follows orders. Then why is it not following your orders now?" Jake asked. Zethek had no answer for that. He looked at the apex with confusion and anger. His perfect weapon was no longer perfect. It was thinking for itself. "It does not matter," Zethek said finally. "I will destroy the weapon and all of you. Then I will report that there was an accident." He raised his weapon again, but the apex moved faster than anyone could follow. One moment Zethek was standing there, the next he was flying through the air. The apex had knocked him across the room. With one swipe of its arm, the other soldiers opened fire, but their weapons could not penetrate the apex's armor. The creature moved through their attack like it was walking through rain, but Jake noticed something important. The apex was not killing the soldiers. It was just knocking them down and taking their weapons away. The creature that had been built to destroy was now showing mercy. "Move!" Jake shouted to the prisoners. "Get to the exit!" The prisoners ran for the door while the apex kept the soldiers busy. Jake carried Lucy and followed the others. As they reached the exit, Jake looked back at the apex. The creature was standing in the middle of the cafeteria, surrounded by disarmed soldiers. It was not attacking them anymore. It was just watching them like it was waiting for them to make a choice. "Come on," Amy's voice came through Jake's radio. "We need to get to the ship now." Jake and the prisoners ran through the corridors of the space station. Behind them, they could hear Zethik shouting orders and calling for more soldiers. The situation was getting worse, but as they ran, Jake could not stop thinking about what he had seen. The apex had changed. A little girl's kindness had reached something deep inside the creature. Something that even its creators had not known was there. Lucy looked back over Jake's shoulder as they ran. "Will my friend be okay?" she asked. Jake did not know how to answer that question. The apex had chosen to protect Lucy, but that choice might have sealed its fate. The Krathak would never forgive what had happened today. "I hope so, honey," Jake said. "I really hope so." They reached the docking bay where their ship was waiting. But as they climbed aboard, Jake heard a sound that made him stop. It was the sound of heavy footsteps. And they were getting closer. The apex was following them. Jake carried Lucy onto his ship as fast as he could. The other prisoners followed behind them, all breathing hard from running through the station. Amy and Ben were already at their stations, preparing the ship for takeoff. "Get us out of here." "Now," Jake ordered. "Sir, the docking clamps are not released yet," Ben said. "It will take 30 seconds. 30 seconds felt like forever. Jake could hear the heavy footsteps getting closer. The apex was coming toward them, and Jake did not know if it was still friendly or if its programming had taken over again. Lucy squirmed in Jake's arms. "Put me down," she said. "I want to see my friend." "Lucy, honey, you need to stay with me," Jake said. "It might not be safe." But Lucy was looking past Jake toward the docking bay entrance. Her face lit up with a smile. "There he is." Jake turned around and saw the apex entering the docking bay. The creature moved slowly, like it was being careful not to scare anyone. Its eyes were still that soft blue color, but Jake could see sadness in them. "Sir, should I close the airlock?" Amy asked. Her hand hovering over the controls, Jake hesitated. If he closed the airlock, they would be safe from the apex, but Lucy clearly cared about the creature, and it had protected them back in the cafeteria. "Wait," Jake said. "Let me see what it wants." The apex stopped about 20 feet from the ship. It sat down on the metal floor of the docking bay, just like it had done when Lucy told it to sit. Then it made that soft purring sound. Lucy wiggled out of Jake's arms and ran toward the airlock. "He followed us. He wants to come with us." "Lucy, no." Jake started to go after her, but Amy grabbed his arm. "Sir, look at it," Amy said. "It is not acting like a weapon. It is acting like like a lost animal." Jake stopped and really looked. At the apex, Amy was right. The creature's whole body language was different. Instead of standing tall and threatening, it was hunched down, making itself smaller. Its eyes were focused on Lucy with what looked like hope. Lucy reached the edge of the airlock and called out to the apex. "Do you want to come with us? We can be friends forever." The apex made a soft sound and started to move toward the ship, but then alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed, and Jake could hear the sound of many soldiers running. "Sir, I am picking up a large group of Krathak forces. Heading this way," Ben reported, "and they have heavy weapons." Zethik's voice came over the station's communication system. "Attention, human vessel. You are not permitted to leave. Return our property immediately." Jake grabbed the communication device. "Commander Zethik, we are leaving now. We have done nothing wrong. You have corrupted our weapon." Zethik's voice was full of anger. "The apex belongs to the Krathak Empire. Return it now, or we will destroy your ship." Jake looked at the apex, who was still sitting patiently near the ship. The creature was not trying to escape. It was just waiting, like it was hoping for permission to come aboard. "Docking clamps are released," Ben announced. "We can leave any time." "Sir, the Krathak soldiers are almost here," Amy said. We need to go now, but Lucy was still calling to the Apex. Come on, hurry up! They want to hurt you. The Apex seemed to understand. It stood up and took a step toward the ship, but then it stopped and looked back toward the station corridors. Jake could see conflict in its many eyes. The creature was torn between two choices. He is scared. Lucy said, he does not know what to do. Jake realized Lucy was right. The Apex had been created to serve the Krathak. For its entire existence, it had followed their orders without question. Now, for the first time, it was being asked to choose. For itself, the sound of marching feet echoed through the corridors. The soldiers would be here any moment. Lucy made the choice for everyone. She ran out of the ship and toward the Apex. Come with me, she said. I will keep you safe. Lucy, Jake shouted, but it was too late. The little girl reached the Apex and grabbed onto one of its lower arms. Please, she said. I do not want them to hurt you. You are my friend. The Apex looked down at Lucy, then back at the corridor where the soldiers were coming. Its eyes changed from blue to red, then back to blue. It was fighting its own programming. Then Zethik appeared at the entrance to the docking bay with 20 soldiers behind him. They all had their weapons ready. Step away from our property, child, Zethik ordered. The Apex will return to its duties now. No, Lucy said firmly. He does not want to hurt people anymore. He wants to be good, Zethik laughed. It is a weapon, not a pet. It does not want anything. Yes, he does, Lucy said. Look at his eyes. He is sad because you make him do bad things. Zethik raised his weapon. Enough of this. Apex, eliminate the human child. The order hung in the air like a death sentence. Everyone in the docking bay held their breath. This was the moment of truth. Would the Apex follow its programming, or would it choose a different path? The Apex looked at Zethek, then at Lucy. Its eyes flashed red for a moment, and Jake was sure it was going to attack. But then Lucy did something that changed everything. She hugged the Apex's arm. I know you are good inside, she whispered. You do not have to do what they say you can choose. The red glow in the Apex's eyes faded completely. The creature gently lifted Lucy in one of its arms, being careful not to hurt her with its claws. Then it turned to face Zethik. I said, eliminate the child. Zethik screamed, but the Apex did not attack Lucy. Instead, it attacked Zethik. The creature moved so fast that the soldiers could not react. One moment Zethik was standing there giving orders, the next he was on the ground with the Apex standing over him, but the creature did not kill him. It just held him down. Fire! Fire at the weapon! One of the soldiers shouted. The soldiers opened fire, but the Apex was too fast. It moved through the docking bay like a deadly dance, knocking down soldiers and destroying their weapons. But Jake noticed something important. The Apex was not killing anyone. It was just stopping them from fighting. Lucy was still safe in the Apex's arms. The creature was protecting her while fighting off 20 armed soldiers. It was doing the impossible. We need to help them, Jake said. Sir, our weapons will not hurt the Apex, and we might hit Lucy, Amy said. Jake realized Amy was right. All they could do was watch and hope. The fight was over in less than a minute. All the soldiers were on the ground, disarmed but alive. Zethik was unconscious. The Apex stood in the middle of the docking bay, still holding Lucy gently in its arms. Good boy, Lucy said, patting the Apex's armored head. You protected me? The Apex made that purring sound again. It was like a giant cat that had just pleased its favorite person. Jake walked slowly toward the Apex and Lucy. The creature watched him approach but did not seem hostile. Lucy, we need to go now, Jake said gently. More soldiers will come soon. Lucy looked at the Apex. Will you come with us, please? The Apex looked at the ship, then at the unconscious soldiers around the docking bay. Jake could see it thinking. The creature had just attacked its own creators to protect a human child. There was no going back now. The Apex walked toward the ship, still carrying Lucy, as it reached the airlock. It stopped and looked back one more time at the station where it had been created. It is okay, Lucy said. You are free now. You can choose to be good. The Apex stepped into the ship. Jake could not believe it. The galaxy's most feared weapon had just chosen to abandon its creators and join them, and it had done it all because a little girl had shown it kindness. "Ben, get us out of here right now," Jake ordered. The ship pulled away from the station and flew into the darkness of space. Behind them, more Krethek ships were coming. But for now, they were safe. Jake looked at the apex, who was still holding Lucy carefully in its arms. The creature's eyes were that soft blue color, and it seemed peaceful. Lucy yawned. "I am tired," she said. "Can my friend stay with me?" Jake did not know how to answer that. They had just stolen the Krethek Empire's ultimate weapon. There would be consequences. But looking at Lucy and the apex together, Jake realized that some things were more important than politics or war. "Yes, honey," Jake said. "Your friend can stay?" 3 months had passed since Jake's ship escaped from the space station. The news of what happened had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The story seemed impossible to believe. A human child had tamed the apex, the most feared weapon in known space. Jake stood on the observation deck of Earth Station 1, watching ships come and go. Behind him, Lucy Bennett played on the floor with her toy dog while the apex sat nearby. The creature had changed even more since coming to Earth. Its armor had shifted from black to a deep blue color, and its eyes rarely showed red anymore. "Captain?" "Morrison," a voice said behind him. Jake turned to see Admiral Collins, the head of Earth Defense Command. "Admiral," Jake said, standing at attention. "At ease, Captain. I want to talk to you about our unusual guest." Admiral Collins looked at the apex with a mixture of wonder and worry. A creature was currently watching Lucy color in a picture book. Its massive head tilted as she chose different colored pencils. "Has there been any word from the Krethek?" Jake asked. "That is what I came to discuss," the Admiral said. "They have been strangely quiet. No demands for the return of their weapon, no threats of war, nothing." Jake found that curious. He had expected the Krethek to be furious about losing the apex. Instead, they seemed to be ignoring the whole situation. "Maybe they are planning something," Jake suggested. "Or maybe they learned something," the Admiral said. "Our intelligence reports say strange things are happening in Krethek space. There are rumors that other weapons like the apex have started acting differently." Jake looked at the Admiral with surprise. "Other weapons?" "The Krethek built 12 creatures like the apex. According to our sources, several of them have stopped following orders. Some have even started protecting civilians instead of attacking them." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you saying that what Lucy did is spreading?" "We do not know for sure, but something is changing out there." Lucy looked up from her coloring and smiled at Jake and the Admiral. "Hello, Admiral Collins. Do you want to see my picture?" The Admiral smiled back. Despite all his military training, he had a soft spot for the little girl who had changed the galaxy. "Of course, Lucy. What did you draw?" Lucy held up her picture. It showed a small girl standing next to a large blue creature under a bright yellow sun. "It is me and my friend having a picnic," she said proudly. The apex made that soft purring sound and gently touched the edge of the paper with one of its smaller arms. It was careful not to damage the drawing. "That is beautiful, honey," the Admiral said. "Your friend likes it too." Lucy beamed with pride. She had no idea that her simple act of kindness had started something that was changing the entire galaxy. Dr. Marcus Webb entered the observation deck carrying a tablet full of data. He was the scientist who had been studying the apex since it arrived on Earth. "Captain Admiral, I have some interesting findings," Dr. Webb said. "The creature's brain patterns have changed completely. It is no longer operating like a weapon. It is thinking like a person." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "The apex is making its own decisions based on what it thinks is right, not on programmed responses. It has developed something like a conscience." The Admiral frowned. "Is that dangerous?" "On the contrary," Dr. Webb said. "It makes the apex much less dangerous. Yesterday I saw it stop a fight between 2 workers by simply standing between them. It did not hurt anyone. It just made them realize they were being foolish." Jake remembered how the apex had fought the Krethek soldiers without killing them. The creature had learned the difference between necessary force and unnecessary violence. "There is something else," Dr. Webb continued. "We have been monitoring communications from across the galaxy. There are reports of other Krethek weapons showing similar behavior. Some have abandoned their posts to protect refugee camps. Others have refused orders to attack civilian targets." "Lucy started something," Jake said quietly. "It appears so," Dr. Webb agreed. "Her simple act of kindness has created a ripple effect across the galaxy." Just then, the communication system crackled to life. "Earth Station 1, this is the Krethek vessel Silent Dawn requesting permission to dock." Everyone on the observation deck froze. A Krethek ship had never requested permission for anything. They usually just demanded or attacked. "Admiral, what should we do?" the communications officer asked. The Admiral looked at the Apex, who had stood up when it heard the Krethek language. The creature's eyes flickered red for a moment, then returned to blue. "Grant them permission," the Admiral said. "But keep our defenses ready." 20 minutes later, 3 Krethek figures entered the observation deck. Jake recognized one of them immediately. It was War Commander Zethok, but he looked different. His armor was simpler, and he carried no weapons. Behind Zethok walked 2 other Krethek that Jake had never seen before. One was very old, with silver markings on his gray skin. The other was younger and wore the robes of a scientist. The Apex tensed when it saw Zethok, but it did not attack. Instead, it moved slightly closer to Lucy, ready to protect her if needed. "I am War Commander Zethok," the Krethek said. "I come seeking the human child called Lucy Bennett." Jake stepped forward. "What do you want with her?" "I want to ask her a question," Zethok said. His voice was different than before. Less angry, more curious, Lucy looked up from her coloring and saw the Krethek visitors. She was not scared. She waved at them. "Hello, are you friends of my puppy?" Zethok stared at Lucy for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone. In the room, he knelt down to be at her eye level. "Child," Zethok said, "how did you know that the Apex could choose to be good?" Lucy tilted her head, thinking about the question. "I did not know. I just thought everyone wants to be good if someone is nice to them. But the Apex was created to be a weapon. To kill and destroy? So," Lucy said. "Just because someone tells you to be mean does not mean you have to be mean. You can choose to be nice instead." The old Krethek stepped forward. "I am Elder Korthek. For 300 years, I have studied the art of war. But this child has taught us something we never considered." "What is that?" the Admiral asked. "That strength without compassion is not strength at all. It is merely destruction," the younger Krethek spoke up. "We have come to propose something. An alliance between our peoples. Not based on fear or power, but on the principle this child has shown us." Jake could not believe what he was hearing. The Krethek Empire, which had been at war with humanity for decades, was offering peace because of Lucy's kindness. "What about your other weapons?" Jake asked. "The other creatures like the Apex?" "They are being given the same choice," Elder Korthek said. "We have stopped giving them orders to kill. Instead, we are asking them what they want to do." "And what do they choose?" Dr. Webb asked. "Most choose to protect rather than destroy," the scientist said. "It seems that deep inside, all living things prefer creation to destruction." Lucy stood up and walked over to Zethok. The Apex followed her, ready to intervene if needed. But Lucy just looked up at the War Commander with her bright, innocent eyes. "Are you going to be good now, too?" she asked. Zethok looked at this small human child who had changed everything. "Yes," he said quietly. "I think I'm going to try." Lucy smiled and patted Zethok's armored hand. "Good. Being good feels much better than being mean." 6 months later, Jake stood in the same observation deck, but everything was different. Ships from dozens of species came and went peacefully. Trade routes that had been battlefields were now busy with merchants and families. The Apex had become something like a guardian for the station. It helped with heavy lifting, stopped fights before they started, and had even learned to play simple games with the children who visited. Lucy was in school now, but she still visited the apex every day after classes. She would tell it about what she learned and show it her homework. The creature listened patiently to every word. Dr. Webb approached Jake with his daily report. "The transformation is still spreading," he said. 3 more Krethek weapons chose to become protectors this week, and it is not just the Krethek. Other species are starting to question whether strength has to mean violence. Jake watched Lucy teaching the apex how to draw. The creature held a crayon delicately in its claws, trying to copy Lucy's simple flower drawing. "You know what the strangest part is?" Jake said. "What is that?" Dr. Webb asked. "The galaxy's most feared weapon was defeated by a 6-year-old girl saying please and thank you," Dr. Webb chuckled. "Maybe that tells us something about what real power actually is." Lucy finished her lesson and hugged the apex's arm. "Good job," she said. "Your flower is beautiful." The creature purred softly and showed its drawing to Jake and Dr. Webb. It was shaky and simple, but it was recognizable as a flower, more importantly. It was created with love instead of destroyed with hate. Jake realized that Lucy had not just saved the people on that space station. She had saved something much bigger. She had shown the galaxy that kindness was stronger than any weapon ever built, and in a universe that had forgotten how to hope, that was the most powerful force of all.